For the sake of everyone who may know me, no, you do not. This story is not in any way related to you or your past. And it is not related to what you may think it is in any way, shape, or form. Now that that's out of the way, sit back and relax, because this is the story of how I became the worst wingman in history. Psst. This may not be the exact story, as my memory isn't the best thing in the world, but it's still pretty good. The story is in fact also suitable for children of all ages. Yada yada yada, something something, T&Cs apply. Now let's get ready to rumble! Let me preface this story by saying I was a pretty smart kid. Like, imagine someone who went to advanced classes in school, went to the library like every day, and even went to chess club every Wednesday. All of that just to pursue the arts instead. You could tell how proud my parents were. However, being smart came with its own issues. One example I hated the most was tutors and lessons. Lots of lessons. So much, in fact, it had me protesting on the way after school. But my mum practically hammered into me the idea that if you're black and you aren't the equivalent of Einstein, you're practically worthless in today's society. And if anyone's had the great privilege of having a black mum, which I still love and appreciate, you know my black ass was going to be in those lessons, on time, with no objections. Little me found no interest in actually doing anything in the lessons, but what truly kept me there were the people who had the misfortune of going there as well, which wasn't a lot due to most of my classmates being absolute bums. I still love them though. Now, of course, I'm not going to tell you their real names, but I'll address them as Volt and Eve. In my primary school, each year had 2 classes, like 5A and 5B, and there was a massive rivalry between the 2 groups. This meant that people from opposite classes never actually got to speak to each other. Unfortunately for me, I was in 5A, while both Volt and Eve were in 5B. So of course I felt like the odd one out. It wasn't all bad though, because my mum was actually friends with Volt's mum, so we'd be able to talk in the car park after school. You know, one time when I was 3, I tried to do a backflip. Whoa, so cool. I broke my back though. Oh. Such riveting conversations. I know. Anyways, me and Volt were like Romeo and Juliet. Apart from the fact that we weren't lovers or predators, it was like a forbidden friendship, an alliance across enemies. A friendship so secretive, none of the guys could know. Most of the time, we would hang out together and talk about the usual class drama. Dramas which would get crazier day after day. So imagine my surprise to find out both him and Eve were in the same session time as me. You may be wondering, how the hell does this relate to the title at all? Well, let me fill you in with a little secret. Volt has a huge crush on Eve. And as a great friend who has more love in their heart than the hate TADC fans have for Jax, I made it my mission to help Volt bag the girl of his dreams. Thus started my journey as the greatest wingman of all time. There was one teeny tiny issue though. Volt was not her type. Mind you, I only knew this because my friends overheard Eve and her friends fawning over some famous guy, talking about how they love tall guys with blonde hair. Mind you, Volt was an average height, black haired, and slightly chunky guy. So the odds went entirely in his favour. Lots of people would believe he's cooked. But thanks to all the Disney movies I watched at the time, I believed love would prevail. In order to guarantee Volt's success, we needed a plan of attack. Lucky for him, I had a plan.
Grand National, attack. Being rational, give them what they asked for. It's not enough. Selling niggas left, but it's not enough.
As a little boy, I was what some people would call a social butterfly. So, I managed to fit myself into so many different groups and made friends with almost everyone I met. One of the many pros came with the fact that I was allowed to pick up on so many different techniques or useful bits of information, which I used to assist Volt in his very own love quest. The one thing to remember is that if you ever wanted information on someone, get them in a group to play truth or dare. Now, I may have been a victim to this technique before in order to spill the beans on who I had a crush on. On side note, Oh my days, the amount of times the girls in my class would surround me demanding to know who I had a crush on was absolutely mental. I never actually had one, except for the one time I did, but that's for a different story. But back to the point, I would use this technique in order to help Volt. Once the game was suggested, the mood shifted. We were all trapped in a 3-way deadlock. And I mean that seriously. From my teeny tiny brain farts and overcomplicated thought process, one mistake in these questions would lead to disaster, one way or another. Let me explain it for you if you don't understand. Let's start with me and Volt. If I was to ask a deep question to Volt, and then he decides to tell the truth, we may not only make Eve feel left out due to us already being friends, but it may also make us dislike Volt if his truths are too weird. Now, if he asks me something, not only will I be forced to slip up and take attention off him, but it may leave Eve to believe that Volt is also weird for even associating with me. However, the main issue of the interaction between Volt and Eve, Volt can't even look Eve in the eyes without turning red. So him asking her a question is practically a death sentence. And if Eve gets weirded out by Volt's truth, we may not get her to tell her own truth later on. And finally, if I ask Eve a question too specific, it may cause the whole thing to feel rushed or forced, or could even give off the idea that I'm the one interested in her. Did you get all that? Good. I essentially had to traverse the game very carefully. One wrong step and I'm cooked. But after a bit of thinking, I managed to create the perfect plan. Whenever it was Volt's turn, I would always pick Dare, but when it was Eve's turn, I would alter between Truth and Dare every other turn. So after all that planning, we made sure to play our questions perfectly on each turn. Unfortunately for you, I don't quite remember the exact questions, but I do remember one. Eve, at this exact moment, if you had a crush, would they be here in this room right now? I felt so smart in this moment. Like that one guy who's holding the chess piece, it was it was kind of tough. I felt like the toughest kid in the world. Like tough with 2 Fs, if you don't understand. It truly felt like a checkmate. Like it was my perfect victory. That's how invested I was. Moreover, after the question, the room felt dead silent. It was like being in a room full of Toto haters. If you know what I mean. See what I did there? But then she said, yes. Oh, it was so green. We hit the first base. I couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe it. It was so great that on our way back to the car park, we were practically leaping. We thought Volt had it in the bag. But oh, how young and naive we were. A few weeks later, Volt wanted me to ask Eve if we should play hide and seek. Because the area was kind of big for no reason. Surprisingly, she agreed. So that's what we did for most of our time together. This is the moment though, when things started to become a little weird. It was one day in the winter when the area would get dark a lot more quicker. It was Volt's turn to be the seeker and he faced the wall to count. I was ready to dash in the hopes of finding the perfect hiding spot until I heard the fateful words, "Do you want to hide together?" Now, you may be thinking, whoa, there is no way you didn't pick up clues from that. And let me remind you, we were 10. And I wasn't even the most clueful person at the age. Is that even a word? Clueful? Anyways, little me, with my innocent eyes, followed Eve to a super duper extra special secret hiding spot. It was a room covered with caution tapes that had clear notes telling people not to enter. There was also a wooden staircase inside, but it only led to a locked door. And I can only remember this because it was so weird, because no one could actually enter, but then why would they lock it out anyways? You know what? I'm getting distracted. I reluctantly followed Eve into the room, definitely not in the hopes of getting more information on her, and we hid in a small space under the stairs. It was really dark, and so I was absolutely sure we would not be found for ages. I was right. We were not found for over 20 minutes. So to pass the time, we began to talk about school. One thing led to another, and then all of a sudden, our topic landed on crushes. Now, do not ask me how we got there, but crushes were all the rage in my school, so it wasn't entirely unexpected. But that's when Eve asked me if I had a crush. As much as I was flattered that someone actually cared to ask me without, playing a truth or dare game, I couldn't really give an exact answer. I was like low-key friends with everyone in my year, so I didn't really think I liked any of them to the point where I'd call it a crush. But that's when I spun the question back at her, but more specific to like people in our school. And to be honest, now this was mostly to see if my good friend Volt had a shot in this game of love is war, and that there were no outsiders who might ruin this. Luckily for me, she actually said yes. I was pretty happy because if everything went to plan, I knew I was going to be Volt's best man at the wedding. Unfortunately for me, what she said next ruined the weeks and weeks of preparation and planning that I had done. She said, "I think I kinda like you." My heart stopped. I was so distraught. Because what was I going to tell Volt? How would he feel? Out of pure panic, I asked her what about Volt if she liked him too. Pause. I just want to self-reflect here and tell you why I was a very, very unintelligent person. 1, how did I not clock that sooner? Eve would usually want to talk to me when we were all together, and when I left her and Volt together, their conversations wouldn't be the best, in my opinion. 2, why did I talk to Eve for Volt? A more intelligent person would just introduce the two and then back away for most of the interactions, instead of acting like a personal translator. And 3, who the hell hides together in hide and seek? You're probably thinking, I went ahead and stole Volt's girl because of how dumb I was to let that happen in the first place. Well, first of all, I'm offended. And second of all, no, I'm not like some people I know, cough cough, a story I may visit at a different time. So after that awkward confession, I tried telling Eve that Volt really likes her, that she was the winds to his sails, the apple to his eye, the honey bun to his sugar plum, the whole 9 yards. No, he did actually say stuff like that. Like, not exactly, but pretty close. Unfortunately, all she had to say was, Volt is alright, I guess. I don't really like him that much. The game had gone left. All my stocks had plummeted into the ground. My investment was through the floor. I left the hiding spot completely dejected, mostly because my mum called me for me to go home. The sad thing is, I never actually finished that hide and seek game, nor did I ever find out what happened between the two. Probably because I avoided them for like the last few weeks of school, and then COVID came around, and then, yeah. But hey, maybe it all turned out swimmingly, and if it did, I guess you could call me the greatest wingman of all time. So, yeah, hey guys, thanks for watching. I'll be honest, I've been trying to push out a video for a while now, but I've just been so focused on what my reintroduction video should be that I kind of just got fed up with myself and just forced myself to make one. So yeah, if you really like this and want to see more, please, you know what to do. Like and subscribe, because that'll really help me push these out. So yeah, toodaloo. This story is in fact also suitable for children of all ages, yada yada yada, T's and C's apply. Now cue my music! Who do I think I am, bro?